Hi, I'm Karen Stever with the Griffin GGS Pro Technical Services Group. We advise professional growers across the country, Griffin greenhouse customers. Today, I'm going to talk to you about magnesium deficiency, how to recognize it, prevent it, or treat it. Magnesium deficiency shows up as this intervenal chlorosis, so basically yellowing between the veins. Magnesium itself is at the center of the chlorophyll molecule and is the center of photosynthesis in plants. So magnesium is really important to the growth of plants. It's a mobile element. The lower leaves give it up easily to supply the upper leaves. So the intervenal chlorosis, if we zoom out a bit, you can see is primarily the oldest foliage on the plant, as those leaves are giving up their magnesium to the upper leaves. The veins remain green for quite some time usually. Case here on Vinca, it's looking pretty extreme. On Dahlia and on Geranium. Here are more photos from the eGrow Nutritional Monitoring Series by Brian Whipker and Garrett Owen. You can see, again, the intervenal chlorosis, starting with some necrosis around the margins of those leaves. Sometimes with lack of magnesium, as the chlorophyll decomposes, the plants can show a red or purplish tint to some of the oldest foliage. And we see that here on geranium. And there was just a hint of that heuchera in the previous slide, starting to have a pinkish tinge to it. Another less common symptom of magnesium deficiency is where that chlorosis appears near the top of the plant, usually just below the tip on the most recently matured leaves. This can be seen on basil and on pentas, and I assume there will be other plants that show this symptom that I just don't know about yet, and maybe no one else does either. Necrosis of the tissue is a symptom of advanced magnesium deficiency. See that here in a mum, a poinsettia, and the third plant is a rudbeckia. We see that necrosis can set in either intervenally, as in the mum, or back here closer to the petiole in this poinsettia, or at the edge of the tissue here in this rudbeckia plant. We can't correct necrosis, but we can prevent our plants from ever getting that way. We have several good sources of magnesium that are fairly easy to apply and inexpensive. So dolomitic limestone is one source. Magnesium sulfate or Epsom salts is a common source. Then we have magnesium nitrate as well as chelated magnesium also. In setting a goal for our magnesium level, we want the calcium to magnesium ratio to be about 2.5 to 1, someplace in that range. The most common way to make a correction is to use the Epsom salts, magnesium sulfate, and you can add anywhere between 4 and 16 ounces of magnesium sulfate per 100 gallons of water, and then apply it as a full irrigation. Water the soil thoroughly. In just a few days, you'll see that plant greening up, and that correction should last for several weeks. A few more tips about adding magnesium to your nutrition program. Magnesium sulfate, Epsom salts cannot be mixed into a concentrated fertilizer that has calcium. The calcium and the sulfate react badly together, makes a big mess. Most commercial fertilizers don't contain enough magnesium, so we do need to routinely add magnesium to most production schemes. However, there are a few fertilizers with elevated magnesiums, plug mixes, CalMag, some targeted towards chrysanthemum production, as well as some others too. The ideal magnesium level that we usually want is someplace from 30 to 60 parts per million. 60 parts per million on the higher end for hydroponics usually. And when I talk about routinely adding magnesium, often we're just adding an ounce. That only adds 7.5 parts per million of magnesium to your nutrition. But we're expecting that there is some magnesium in your water and some in your fertilizer. If you have a water test and have that tested, we can really dial in that magnesium to calcium ratio to get you the best nutrition. Magnesium leaches very easily out of potting mix, so you can, if you're watering extra volume, you can reduce the effective magnesium that the plant is feeling. And when we're doing a correction for deficiency, root feeding is the best. Sometimes with other elements, you may want to do a foliar feed. Highly recommended with magnesium that we feed it through the roots. It works very quickly. You can see it working in 1 to 2 days by less yellowing in the plants. And your correction is usually pretty complete in about 4 days. So relatively quickly, relatively complete, cheap and easy. Let's not let magnesium deficiency happen in your crops. So thanks for sharing your time with me today. If you have any questions or comments, please send them by email or give me a phone call at the numbers shown here, and I'll be happy to discuss it with you. Thanks again.